Hello, hello. We'll try to keep this fairly quick. I'm trying to make it practical in terms of, we talk about security and you always need to do more. You could spend $1 bazillion on security, but from a business perspective, there's going to be something that's I used this analogy earlier, half an hour ago in another webinar where there was a time where driving a car without a seatbelt was a perfectly acceptable thing to do. And now that's crazy, right? You wouldn't drive a car without a seatbelt. There are cars that stop automatically now if you don't hit the brakes so that you don't accidentally rear end someone, right? That technology is fairly new and it's on some entry-level vehicles now as well. It used to be just on super fancy vehicles, but if your car doesn't stop automatically, it's not crazy, right? But in 10 years, if your car doesn't stop automatically, that'll just be nuts. That'll just be like, what? It will advance to the point where it's like a seatbelt, where what do you mean your car doesn't stop automatically if you don't hit the brakes, right? So that's an analogy for how the security stuff is advancing, right? There was a time where having SSL on your website and having your website be secure was just only for if you were doing logins or shopping and if you were selling things online. And then Google went and deranked everybody who doesn't have SSL on their website. So now there's a consequence, and they said, well, everybody's website, regardless of whether you're holding any information that's useful or shopping, has to be secure. So, what is the true cost? Where's the balance right now of things that are, well, absolutely, you have to have that. That's crazy if you don't. And then some other stuff that is a little bit ahead of the curve, and where does your business sit in that framework so that you can say, well, if you're a bank or if you're doing online trading and providing that service to your customers, then you need to be probably ahead of where the mainstream is. If your website is just a brochure site, then you probably, or that's using the website as an example, but if it's just a brochure site, then you probably don't need as much security. So where's the balance of what you need, and how much really should you be spending on security, and where do you sit with other businesses? So that's where I'm going over today is some practical stuff around the cost of security and what's an appropriate amount to spend, because how much does a car cost? Right? I mean, you could spend 20 grand or 5 grand or, $1 million, right? Same thing as securities. How much does security cost? So that's some of the stuff we'll go over. It's a long list, but I'm going to try to go over it fairly quickly to, again, stay practical and keep it fairly short. So cybersecurity is this idea of all of these ways that we can protect a business and protect your data. Information is the new hot commodity, right? So a one piece of identity, someone's phone number, social insurance number, credit card, that kind of thing goes between, and it's a range, but it's between $1 and $8 US on the black market, right? So if you can steal 100 identities from somewhere, that can be $8 each, up to that much if they're good, right? So it's stealing 100 of them or stealing 10,000 of them. It's pretty easy. A really terrible hacker can make $65K US per month, not per year, per month. So if you start hacking today, you don't really know what you're doing, you kind of suck at it, you can still make $65K per month. And so I'm trying to promote this idea of being proactive about security, because it's way better to be proactive about it than it is to deal with it after the fact. Because there is an argument that says, well, I'll just, whatever, if I get hacked, I'll deal with it. For a $1 million business, it's common for a hack to cost at least $25K and up to $100,000, in that range. I realize that's a big range, depends on what happens and what kind of hack. It can cost zero if it's not really a hack or if it's not really a breach, but if it's an actual real security incident, then somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $100,000 for a $1 million business. So scale that up, right? So if you're a $5 million business, scale that up. And then what does it cost? to be proactive about that and try to prevent it. Nothing is 100%. You'll never be 100% secure. But if you picture it like a pack of animals, it's the weak ones at the back that get eaten first, right? So you don't have to be the most secure on the planet. You just have to be more secure than a lot of other people, and then they'll hack someone else instead of you, right? Because someone's going to get hacked, and at some point it is going to be you. But so we should be prepared. But if we're being proactive about it, the idea is that hopefully we're not the easiest to hack, that we'll go hack someone else first. So 1/5 to 1/20th of the cost of a breach. So for a $1 million business, we're going to look at it, but super practical terms, about $5,000 a year is what you should be spending on security. So we're going to look at that. So it is not if, it's when. It's when and how you will be hacked, not if. This will happen to your business. It will happen to your staff. Someone will click on something. They'll be really sorry they did it. They may not notice they did it, but it is 100% that it will occur. Happens to about 20% of businesses in Canada every year, right? So, in the next 5 years, it's for sure going to happen at some point, right? That's a bad day. How much does it cost if you pay the ransom or if you don't pay the ransom? These are not small business numbers. These are average numbers across, right? So if we're talking $1 or $2 and $3 or $5 million businesses, the numbers are smaller. But if you're looking at just all numbers across the U.S., the costs are quite high. There was just recently the pipeline hack in the U.S., the Colonial Pipeline, the Irish health services were hacked. Sorry, I forgot the name, but yeah. Then the Colonial Pipeline ended up paying, I think they paid just under $5 million, 4.4 or something $million. I mean, the crazy thing is they got the decryption key for it, and the decryption key was too darn slow. So they didn't end up using it. So they paid the $4.4 million and then didn't end up using the decryption key for it. So they still need the backups. So even if you think, well, I'll just pay the ransom. If that's the case, I have insurance, I'll pay the ransom. Not the case. It wasn't good enough to be able to do it in time. It was too slow, etc. In the meantime, Google and Microsoft and all these other people are trying to actively shut them down. So that email address that you're sending it to, that wallet that you're sending it to, the money, those people may not even exist by the time you pay them. So there's no guarantee that paying the ransom will get you what you need. Some super direct costs. They can actually take money, right? They can. We had one where it was a really simple open to Word document, and $2,000 disappeared out of the person's Royal Bank account that night, right? Just actual monetary theft. There's some other ones where, because in those situations, there's usually a daily limit of what you can do in a bank transaction. But there's some more creative ones that are a wire transfer, where they trick people into transferring money to a different location, or our account has changed and they're impersonating your supplier or your vendor or something like that. Please send to this account instead of that account, right? So if that's the case, make sure you double check. And if you're getting an email from someone that is asking you to change the bank account, send them a text or give them a call, or use some other method, not email, right, to confirm, yes, that was me. It was changing the account. We were doing it. Okay, no problem. Yeah, that's fine. We had one that was one of our manufacturers was at a show in Germany where they were looking at new machines. The hackers got the list of the people that were attending. This is a company in Hamilton that's a manufacturer. And the owner was indeed at a show in Germany looking at, this is prior to COVID, of course. The owner got a call from the bank teller that the accountant was at the teller, wanting to move $40,000 out of their bank account for a deposit on a brand new machine to the supposedly the manufacturer of the machine. Easy to talk about it now, but they knew the person, they knew who to target, they knew who the accountant was, they knew he was in Germany at a show. It was the right type of machine, right? It came from a domain that was from that manufacturer of that machine. And so the accountant thinks, Fred is in Germany, and I'm changing the name, but Fred is in Germany. He is at the show. He probably does want to put a deposit on a new type of machine from this company. And I just got an email from this company asking me to do a wire transfer for that deposit. Right? It was all in line with, they knew a lot about the company and what to say and who to target. And it was only stopped because the bank teller called the owner just to make sure, and the owner gets a call on his cell phone in Germany, and nope, I'm not putting a $40,000 deposit on a machine right now. So yeah, please don't send that wire transfer. So yeah, there's some direct costs to this stuff, but then there are fines. There's you potentially have to report to the privacy commissioner. Your insurance might go up, probably does go up if you have a claim. And then there's indirect costs, right? Is we haven't even talked about, how long was the Colonial Pipeline disrupted for, right? That's an example that just happened, but literally people could not get gas, right? I mean, it wasn't just their business disruption; it was all of these other things that had these consequences, right? Do you want to do business with someone who's been hacked? Even if it's not really their fault, right? Like it's potentially it's you getting attacked, right? It's something that happens to you. You're a victim in this scenario. But unfortunately, people go, well, I guess I don't really want to do business with them because they were hacked, right? If you've got intellectual property that you've developed, that may be something that Apple just got hacked. And the designs of the new iMac, the really thin ones that just came out, the designs of that are leaked online because it wasn't actually Apple that got hacked. It was one of their manufacturer suppliers that did. But in their case, they were very proud that they didn't have business disruption and downtime. They had the backups and the security failovers and all that sort of stuff to not have a lot of business disruption. They kept going. But they got intellectual property, and they were threatening to release that. That's the kind of the new wrinkle here is that they threaten to release the information. So it's that they encrypt your data and hold it ransom, and then you have to pay to get the data back. Then the other piece they've added to it is they threaten to release that information online. So now you not only do you have to tell your customers, we got hacked. It's, oh, I'm really sorry, your information was posted publicly onto this forum, which is even worse. So damage to the company, credibility, brand, years, right? I mean, how long has it been since Equifax got hacked? It's been a few years, and I'm in this industry, but we remember Home Depot got hacked. That was 5-7 years ago. That Ashley Madison, that dating website, got hacked. Right? That we remember that. This stuff stays in people's memory for a long time. So I was buying something from Home Depot the other day, and I was really hesitant to save my credit card. It's much more convenient to save the credit card, but I was really hesitant to save the credit card on Home Depot because, and it's nothing against Home Depot, but I remember when they got hacked and their credit card information the information of their customers was leaked online. So, I definitely thought twice before saving my credit card there, right? Which is, okay, I'm still doing business with Home Depot, but I'm thinking about it, right? That's maybe 7-8 years later, right? So the damage to the reputation is definitely a big indirect cost of this stuff. So, so most people have cybersecurity insurance, but 20% of people actually don't end up with the right cybersecurity insurance. And so then when you need it, it's not there for you, or it doesn't pay for all the things you need it to. So that's really important. I don't sell insurance. I'm not here to sell insurance, but I would say we can help review it. It is something we do on a regular basis where we can work with your insurance provider. If you don't have one, I can recommend one. Again, I don't sell insurance, but I want you to have good insurance and the right type of coverage so that this used to be an add-on. It's now regular. It's now all the regular insurance companies are now doing cyber, and that's changed in the past year. It used to be, well, you have regular business errors and omissions, and maybe the key person coverage, and that, the regular business type stuff, and then you add the cybersecurity as a rider onto it. It is now part of every insurance application. It's a normal thing. So it's weird if they are not asking about it. They should be asking about it. If you're on your next renewal or that sort of thing, if you're not talking about cybersecurity piece, then definitely you should be talking about it. And what kind of coverage? Are they going to pay the ransom? Right, that's a big one. Will they pay the ransom? Will they pay for remediation? If you have to pay for credit monitoring for 1,000 people whose information got breached, are they going to pay for that? Right, those are some really important questions to ask. And again, very practical things. It's like, will the insurance company pay for that? Right? On average, 26% of people end up paying the ransom. And we talked about how that could be not necessarily a solution to the problem. So global statistics, lots of people were hit by ransomware. 24% of people stopped the attack before things were encrypted, which is great. This is of respondents. This is maybe not necessarily the largest sample size, but it's this particular survey that comes from Sophos. So 64%. So 84% had insurance, 64% had useful insurance, right? So it's really 64% had insurance. So these are Canadian statistics. I said 20% earlier. It's higher. 39% of businesses in Canada were hit by hacks last year. Again, about 26% of them stopped it before it got anywhere. Average cost of remediation. Again, this is large corporations, so the audience here is intended at, and we're going to record this and put it on YouTube. So the audience here is intended at smaller businesses. So this number is not going to be quite as high for us as it is, but it's still quite high. In other words, the cost, and it's about a 20% decrease in those who thought they had insurance and those who actually had the right insurance. So only 11% of people got it back by paying the ransom. So paying the ransom, again, is not all that useful. It's not a solution. So yeah, 4 times the increase in hacks right now with COVID-19. Lots of people at home, lots of people with time on their hands, lots of people with that are desperate and need money and turning to cybercrime, which is actually fairly easy to do and get into and profitable. I don't suggest anybody here do it, because you will get caught. But in non-extradition countries and other places around the world, etc., it is a common thing for people to get into, and you can pay a monthly subscription and attend a webinar much like this one and learn how to hack. And you can have 0 experience and still make $65K US per month. And that is very attractive to people, and it's a risk that a lot of people are willing to take. So yeah, we're 18th in the top 20 countries in the world in terms of targets and Canadian companies being hacked. So how much should you spend on cybersecurity? Some real practical stuff. A rule of thumb is 0.3 to 0.5% of revenue. All right, so if you're a $1 million business, scale that up or down. If you're a $1 million business, you should spend about $5,000 per year or $416 per month, right? So that's combined between human tools. So insurance is one piece, right? Have a fail-safe, have a safety net. That's your insurance. Have a human training piece, right? So webinars like this one and training and certifications and make sure that you're, because whatever tech stuff, right? The other piece is, the third piece is tech stuff, is antivirus and firewalls and anti-spam and, various tech doohickeys that you can make that are more secure and protect things. But so you have the insurance. That's all else fails, I have insurance. Then you have, okay, I'm going to train my people, because you could have 18 locks on the door, but if someone opens all those locks and lets the security or lets the hacker in by being tricked, right? Social engineering is another term for that. Then there's not, all the security in the world won't matter, right? And then you have the actual tech stuff, right? And that's what people think about, is what can I buy, what can I add on or pay for, and then I'll be secure. For sure, there's lots of those, and there's tons of innovation happening there. But don't forget the other two: the human training piece and the insurance. Those three pieces combined are actually the security picture. Yeah. So for a $1 million business, about $5,000 per year is what you should be spending. So between some combination of those three is the human training, insurance, and the tech stuff. So yeah. Expect a 10 to 25% increase on everything: hardware, Office 365, on just generally for security costs. Insurance, again, for a small business, $50 to $200 a month for the cybersecurity piece, right? So again, these are some approximate numbers. I tried to put some hard numbers in there so that it's real practical, so you can evaluate where you are to say, well, I'm spending less than that, or I'm spending more than that, or what's an appropriate amount to spend, right? You can do a cybersecurity audit. So that is a little bit more in-depth analysis to say, because there are some security controls. There's NIST and CIS are the big ones, and there's some others. So there's some independent standards that people have released, various organizations. It's sort of like ISO 9001, right? So there's a standard of, do you have two-factor authentication? Is SSL on the website? Is there, how often do you change passwords? Do you have inventory? Do you, all these questions, right? So most of them have about 200 controls or so, and then they have some. So there's levels. They say, is this control on? So do you have two-factor authentication on? Yes or no. Second one is it automated? Meaning, yes, it's on at the time of the audit, but if I create a new email address today, is it automatically on for those new email addresses? Am I propagating the security issue if I don't have it enabled automatically? Then the third one is, am I reporting on it, and how often? Right? So some of these things they're technical, but some of them are actually, about half of them end up being documentation and reporting, and things like, do you have a disaster recovery plan and that sort of thing. One piece of paper that has the phone numbers for all the key people you need. There's a hack going on right now. Here's my phone tree. I'm going to call the IT company. I'm going to call the insurance company. I'm going to call my lawyer. I'm going to call my business partners. I'm going to call Bell, maybe. I'm going to, all those key phone numbers that you need and key contacts, etc. I looked at one plan this is for a larger corporation, but they actually had in the plan a designated person who had extra tanks of gasoline at their house in those approved gas containers, and they would, if the entire eastern seaboard was down, they would drive west, or they would basically get in their car and drive until they could get to a place where there was internet, and then they could access things and communicate with their customers in that way, etc. So they were it was a pretty involved plan, and actually had real we have X gallons of gas at this person's house, and they are going to drive until they're designated to do so, until they can get internet. It was, to that level. So, insurance cost varies, or coverage. So again, this is just sort of make sure that you have the right insurance, because these are some of the questions. Are they going to pay for cleanup costs? Are they going to pay the ransom? Are they going to pay both? Are they going to pay other indirect costs? Is there business loss there? What is your insurance going to pay for? That's really important. So there's Canada, and where we rank in terms of insurance by other countries. So we're not the best, but not the worst either. These are the common. How is a hack going to get in? It's going to be, the most likely thing is by email, right? So we'll go over this, but a spam filter is a really, really good idea, a really good advanced spam filter. Because these are, my wife got one this morning saying her Office 365 was suspended. She literally showed me her phone this morning at breakfast saying she got an email that her Office 365 account had been suspended, and please click here to unsuspend your account. This is Michelle from Microsoft. I want to help you, and your email has been shut down, right? Is because it's from Microsoft, and it wasn't from Microsoft, of course, but because it looks like it's from Microsoft, we believe it, right? So, DoorDash, Staples, Amazon, Home Depot, these kinds of things are, you pay attention to an email from the payroll people, right? Or your cell phone company, or from the food delivery people, or the bank. So these are the companies that hackers impersonate in order to get your attention, in order to get you to click on stuff, right? And it's not stupid people that click on it, right? These are sophisticated hackers that they spend all of their time doing A/B testing and all those things that we spend time on, in our businesses, and making things perfect and having a good customer experience and knowing what to do. They spend that amount of time, unfortunately, figuring out how to trick people. And so when you get that email, it's well scripted and well thought out. It used to be the Nigerian prince, right? It's not the Nigerian prince who wants to give you $1 million for your services anymore. Like, it's too obvious to spot. It's really hard to spot these things, and it's easy to fall for them. So your staff aren't stupid for falling for them. Someone will fall for them. A lot of it is by email. That's the number one. So a malicious link is by email. Malicious attachment is by email. Via a supplier. Those are combine those because they're by email. USB sticks are pretty rare these days. RDP is a remote desktop protocol. It's pretty easy to stop. And lock down. So that's not as common anymore. Remote attack on a server because it isn't patched or something like that. Again, that's a big one, but it is fairly easy to stop and make sure that things are patched properly, etc. So by email is the number one way. So proper cybersecurity will protect your business. What do you need to do? It's preparing, making sure that you have a secure configuration, that you've thought of this, that you've done the user and the human piece. Don't forget that user and human training. There's this concept of zero trust. We'll probably do a separate webinar on zero trust. But the old way of doing things was, you would log into the network and then access things on the network once you were logged in. A VPN is a common way of doing that. So once you're on the VPN, you can access things on the network. The concept of zero trust takes away the VPN and says, nope, we don't care who you are. I'm going to make you log in every single app. If you want to use Google, you're going to log in. If you want to use Word, you're going to log in. If you want to use the EMR software, you're going to log in. If you want to use the project management software, you're going to log in. Right? So there's a login at every single step. Because zero trust. We do not trust the user. There is not trust granted to generally, welcome to the network. You may access anything you want on the network, because then there's only one place where they authenticate. Zero trust is the concept of every single app they use, every single function they do, they need to be authenticated. So that it's much more difficult. There's more fences for hackers to get through. They might get through the first one, but they won't get through the second. Or if they get through the second, they won't get through the third. So that's the concept of zero trust, and we'll probably do a separate webinar on that. But then the other side of this is being prepared, right? What is it? What's that incident management going to look like? You got a phone call this afternoon and you are being hacked. What do? Right? We've got a short checklist of the sort of the immediate things you do, and then reporting afterwards. Don't destroy the evidence, etc. Right? There is no such thing as secure. There's only more secure, and big surprise, humans are the weakest link. It's not the computers. We always think it's the computers. It's the humans that are the weakest link. So just some quick tips, and then we'll wrap it up. So click carefully. The number one way is somebody clicked on something. Whoops. And if you do click on something, don't hide it, and don't create, let me put it in a positive way, create a culture in the company where you don't shoot the messenger, right? We're not mad at people if they say, shoot, I did something wrong, I clicked on something I shouldn't have, right? I want people to feel comfortable coming forward with that, because it's way better if we know. If they're afraid of losing their job or being demoted or being reprimanded for clicking on this stuff, then what will happen is that we as business owners won't find out about it until it's way worse than it should be, right? The sooner we find out about it, the sooner we act, the better off we can be, the less damage they can do. Literally unplug the computer, right? If there's a suspicion of the thing, right, because it'll take time to contact the IT company and get someone, minutes count here. Literally shut it off, right? Rip the thing out of the wall, shut off the server, take the internet down. That's what people do in these scenarios, is literally the pipeline stopped pumping gas, right? And oil, and it's just, they had to shut her down immediately. To contain the damage. So that's the number one. Be careful when you click, and if you do, then tell people about it. So the lock, if you go to a website, this is the top left of where it says what the www whatever is. This is Google is penalizing websites for not having this now. So just make sure there's a lock wherever you are. Every website should have this. If there isn't, leave. Hotspots. So, we're going to start hopefully traveling again soon. So if you're at a hotel, if you're at the airport, that sort of stuff, just be really careful with what you do at a hotspot. Assume that your traffic is being read by someone else. So, even if it's with the bank, even if it's with, you are ultimately accessing something secure, but you're doing it through a connection that isn't so secure, or assume that it's not so secure. So, be really careful what you do on those. Play a game if you need to, that's fine, but I'm not sure I would do my online trading or banking or that kind of stuff, right? So just be careful. Long passwords as opposed to complex, right? We've been taught to use @ symbols and exclamation marks and that kind of thing. Do a long one instead. If you make it complex, sure. But then the other side of this is, how the heck do I remember all this stuff? And that'll be the next tip, I think, so this one is update your software. Adobe asks you for an update, or Java asks you for an update, or we often just sort of ignore. I don't have time right now. Don't ignore those. Hit yes. Make sure they are updating. We're as an IT company updating Windows and patches and Office and that kind of thing, but there's a bunch of other software out there that's on your computer that does need to be patched, and you should click yes on those updates. So this is if I have to have a long, complicated password for everything, how the heck am I going to remember that? Use a password manager. Is this 100% secure? No, password manager can get hacked too. LastPass, Keeper, there's a bunch of them out there. Chrome does it by default. Again, is Chrome the best password manager? Is LastPass the best password manager? Is Keeper the best? We can argue till the cows come home, but it's better to have a password manager than to not have one and use the same password everywhere. That's much worse, right? So use a password manager. Is Chrome the best one? No, LastPass and Keeper are better than Chrome. But Chrome, the fact that it is a password manager, is way better than not having one. So just do a little bit more than everyone else, and hopefully they get hacked and not you. Again, I'm trying to keep it real practical here, because we can spend a bazillion dollars and say, yeah, you got to be Fort Knox and you should never use a computer and everything should be 100% secure all the time. And but as a business owner, I get it. Like, we got to be practical. There's a balance between convenience and security, and what we can do and how much money we can spend. So that's the current, the balance we're trying to strike. Secure file sharing. So don't email stuff. Assume it's a postcard. Would you put I was doing something with T4s earlier today, and it would have been so much more convenient to email it, but that's not a good idea, right? It's the social insurance number. It's a lot of useful information for a hacker on a T4. So that is not something that we want to email. So use a portal. Use a secure file sharing, a SharePoint or a Google Drive or a Dropbox or something like that, right? Where someone has to go get the file, etc. You could password protect it and email it that way. Again, that's a little bit better. It's still by email. It's really easy to crack that password, but it's still better than not just send it. So just be conscious of what you're emailing. And we're almost done. Multi-factor authentication. I can't state this one enough. If you do nothing else, do this one. 81% of hacking related stuff is to do with email and weak passwords and getting into email and impersonating email and that sort of thing. Multi-factor authentication, they will text you. Someone from Brazil, I have nothing against Brazil. Someone from Brazil just tried to log in. Is that you? Are you in Brazil logging in? Great. You got a 6-digit code, log in. You're off to the races. If it isn't you, then the hacker didn't get in, and you just got a notification that someone from Brazil tried to log in, and then so to change your password because you probably used, and I just told you not to, but you probably did end up using that password or some version of that password somewhere else, so you should go change that password anywhere else you used it, because the hackers will try it on the bank and on Hotmail and on whatever. So multi-factor authentication, so make sure that is set up. So so train your staff, keep your infrastructure up to date, do the updates, and have a plan in place, right? So what's the fail-safe? Is insurance, and also an incident management plan and responses, and some key. You can do an entire business continuity plan, and that's a whole thing in a service, and it can be a 100-page document. That's wonderful. Let's all spend the time and do that, and that's great. But what we can do in 15 minutes on a napkin is, who are my key contacts? If this happens to me this afternoon, who I should have my insurance broker's name and number and who that is. I should have some key people in the business that I'm going to call. I should have my lawyer's information. Should have the IT company's information, probably the internet provider. Some key stuff like that on a one page, so you can just reference it really quick, right? What if this happens when you're not around? Will your staff know what to do if they have a one-pager on what to do with some quick notes on this stuff? Then they can start to act on your behalf even when you're not there, right? So, let's leave it at that. That's what I have for today. I do have a bunch of other slides, but let's leave it at that, because that's the main stuff around the cost and what you should do for cybersecurity. And I tried to give you some practical things on how to do this in a real world scenario, because it's super easy for me as a security and IT person to say, spend $1 bazillion on this, and sure, write me a blank check and I'll fix everything. Yeah, absolutely, that's easy, and I'd love to do that. But we're business owners and we need to spend our money wisely. There's an appropriate amount to spend for the level of security that we need, and what is that today? And that will change, like the seatbelt analogy, et cetera. That'll change, but that's what I'm trying to do, is give you that practical idea of what's an appropriate amount to spend. So hopefully that was useful. Thank you, and have a great day.